Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new day. And actually, it's not morning anymore. It's 12:02. So good afternoon, everyone. It's Saturday afternoon now, and I'll talk on the way, but I'll let you know where I'm going. And what I'm going to also do is turn you around right now and just start talking. All right, so I'm actually going to get us lunch right now. Back in November when we got married, one of our friends around here, our neighbors, gave us a certificate or one of those a gift card type of things to a Chinese place here in town. It's called Chinatown Kitchen. And we totally forgot about it. Absolutely forgot about it. And so I was asking Glenn what he wanted for lunch. And he said, well, can we afford to go get some Chinese? Or he said chicken. And I think his thoughts were KFC. And I don't know what made me look in my wallet, but I found I don't go in my wallet often, and so I actually, I don't even have my seatbelt on. Gotta get my seatbelt on. And I found the gift thing to the Chinese place. So I said, well, we have this gift thing to the Chinese place. Why don't we just get it there then? So we're using that up. So when you find things like that and forgot about that you had them, it's kind of nice, isn't it? Like when you stash $20 here or there, you forget about it, and then you find it later on. So we're going to get Chinese for lunch. So I apologize, I didn't get a video out last night or yesterday at all. I was busy in the kitchen. And my intentions were still to get the video out about just kind of steps to take when you're a first-time home buyer. And I was going to do that last night after we ate. I actually sat down and wrote some notes down. And then I took Gypsy out. And then right before that, I started feeling really flush and a little shaky. So I wasn't feeling the greatest then, and it was getting late, so I just really wanted to lay down. So I apologize I didn't get that video out yesterday, or any video out yesterday. But I figure since I'm driving to the Chinese place, I'll just kind of talk about some things to take into consideration when you're going to buy a home for the first time, some things to know. And I'm just speaking from our experience, more so me, because everything was in my name, or is in my name. I had to go through the process. Alright, so let's start off with credit first. I'm just going to talk about this stuff on the way, and it's a good time to talk about it, because then I don't have to go home, eat, and then sit down and talk about it. Alright, so credit first. The typical credit they want you to have minimum is a 620 credit score. So if you already know your credit score and you don't have that high, not that that's high credit, a high credit score, but if your credit is not at least 620, then I would work on that first. If you know you have debt, anything that's going to up your credit score, I would take care of that first. So in my process, when I went to inquire about if I would get approved. Now, keep in mind, I'm a veteran, so I was going to use my VA loan. But But if there's any veterans out there looking to buy a home for the first time, everything still applies to you except the down payment. So you still, even using your VA loan, you still have to have at least 620 on your credit score. And so keep that in mind. So I went to go inquire, and I had some stuff on my credit. It was basically medical stuff, mainly medical stuff. Years back, my spinal cord went crooked and I could hardly walk. So I went through some therapy, but then ended up being on my credit. So for those of you that don't think your medical bills affect your credit, it does. It does go on. I don't know if it affects the score, but it does show up on your credit report. So what I did, so that caused me not to have a high enough score. Yeah, my credit was poor back then. I'm being honest. I'm being open. My credit was poor back then, and so what I did was go to our bank, and they helped me, they said, well, what we could do is, because my debt was like $5,000, and so they gave me a loan, and they sent checks out to pay all the debt. They sent the checks out. I didn't have to deal with that. So they sent checks out and sent all the money to the debt places that I owed. And then obviously I just had to pay my loan back, and which I did. Now the only thing I'm not sure of is if I had to wait until I was done paying the loan off, or I think I just had to wait a little while until all those debts were paid, and then wait for that to hit my credit score. So I took care of that, and then once it hit my credit score, my credit was high enough to qualify for a loan. So I went and started the process, did all the paperwork, and they ran my credit, obviously, and they gave me what I was approved for. So I was approved for $100,000 home. Back then, you could find those homes. I don't know if you can anymore, but I need to get in the other lane. So now, once you're approved for that loan and you get your amount that you're approved for, go less. Just because you can afford it, I don't advise going as the highest you can go on your loan. We were approved for $100,000, and our property home was $70,000, which is a damn good price for that lot. So yeah, decide how much you can afford your monthly mortgage payment to be, and go less. And I'll tell you why. Because we're almost here, and I'll pick up when I come back out. This is downtown, and we're just going right here. Alright everyone, so this is our downtown, Right on the right-hand corner there, across the street, is a funeral home. That's where Glenn's ma and brother-in-law and other family members had their service. You can see on the left those the church there. It's always been, I always thought that was such a beautiful church. Alright, so we're going to continue on. I had said whatever you're approved of, or whatever you determine what you can afford for a mortgage payment every month, go lower. Because that came into play when everything happened in 2020. So I had been working manufacturing, which means in a factory, and I was making really good money. So we could afford a lot bigger payment than what we have at the time. But we discussed it, and our biggest fear was always, what if I lost my job? So we discussed it and determined if I lost my job and I had to take a very much lower paying job, what would be the mortgage we could pay with a very lower paying job, so that we would not be at risk of going into default on our mortgage payments. So we determined we wanted our mortgage payment to be no more than $650. I think that's what we determined our mortgage to be, and that's including tax and insurance escrow. With everything, that's what we determined we could do if I even had to get a lower paying job. So we made our decision, and that decision has come into play. When we first bought the house, our mortgage payment was $500 and something. That's including tax and insurance escrow. So we bought the house in 2011, and so we were doing fine, you know, no problems paying the mortgage. When we were searching for a home, for a house to buy, and we knew we were approved for $100,000, but in the back of our minds, we were always, that's just going to give us a higher payment. So keep that in mind when you're searching for a house, is that payment every month. So just because you're approved for a higher loan amount doesn't mean you have to use it or take it. So we were approved for the $100,000, and we ended up buying a house, our house, for $70,000, which gave us a lower monthly mortgage payment. So everything's fine. And then when 2020 came, this is why that decision was important, to go lower. When 2020 came and everything happened, and we were trying to decide if I could quit my job, because Glenn was getting Social Security, so everything would be on his Social Security to pay. And because we had a lower mortgage payment, his Social Security would take care of the mortgage payment, no problem. But if we had a higher mortgage payment, it probably would have been able to pay the mortgage, but not anything else. So that's why you want to, really take into consideration, what if you lose half of the household income? We lost 2/3 of the household income. So Glenn was getting his Social Security, but my monthly take home was 2/3 of our household. And so that's what we lost, but we still managed to be able to pay the mortgage with his Social Security. So that was a very crucial decision we made when we were looking for a house and the cost of the house. So that's the most important thing, and that's the first thing we pay is the mortgage. The mortgage gets paid first thing, and nobody can ever take that away, your home away from you, as long as you're paying your mortgage. So those are things to take into consideration: your credit, how much you can afford as a mortgage payment. Another thing is job stability. When you go in for the paperwork, the loan, they're going to ask you how long you've been at your job, and they wanted to see. And again, please remember, I'm speaking from my experience. They wanted to know how long I've been at my job, and I started working at that job in 2008, and we bought the house in 2011. So being there a couple years, 2 to 3 years, was good enough to say there's stability in my income. So now, in today's age, today's time, there's gig working. And I know a lot of people out there gig work for a living, but I can't speak for that. I don't know how they look at that, and some of you might already know that, but I can't say how they look at gig working as job stability. So I'm not going to speak or say that that would be okay. So I don't know. All right, so stability was a huge thing, and those are some of the big things you want to take into consideration before saying buying this house. Also, you want to determine what's important to you in the house. What are your needs, your wants? What are the most important things? Because not every house, they might check off some stuff off your list of importance, but every house you go to is not going to check off every single thing on your list. It might, but it might not. So you have to determine the most important things of a house that you're looking for. Ours was a nice neighborhood. Well, at that time, we lived on the south side of town, and we were looking at a lot of houses on the south side, which really were congested with people. So we really wanted to, not be that close to neighbors. But for us, it was the size of the lot, and the size of the garage. Now, a lot of the houses we were looking at were like close to that $100,000 mark, like $90,000, but their garages were like a single car garage that was falling apart, and the flooring in the garage was cracked and unlevel. A lot of houses were like that, and they didn't have good sized yards. So a lot of those were just not in our realm. It took us from the time we got approved, it took us 3 months of looking at houses and looking at more houses and houses before we settled. And I wouldn't say we settled. This is an amazing property we got. So for us, the biggest things were garage size and lot size. So our property is on a half acre, and as you can see in the videos, it's a good sized lot. It's perfect for both of us. And the garage is a oversized 2.5 car garage. So it's bigger than the normal 2-car garage. It's listed as an oversized 2.5 car garage. And we have a rolling up back door that's the size of a 1-car garage that you can drive through to the backyard, in which I have. All right, so I'll pick this up. I'm home now. I'll pick this up in a little bit, and so we can finish up this conversation. All right, everyone, so here is my plate. I already took Glenn his. I'm using these little pie pans to pour our sweet and sour sauce on. Got some sweet and sour chicken, broccoli beef, and white rice. And there is plenty for 1 or 2 more meals out of this. So let me show you. So we get usually 2 large sweet and sour chicken and 1 large broccoli beef because there's so much in it. So these 2 are chicken, and we still have that much left from the first one, so there's still that one. This is the broccoli beef. These 2, we got 3 of these small things of white rice. Between the both of us, we just finished 1, so we got 2 more. And 2 large containers of sweet and sour sauce. And some fortune cookies. So definitely not cooking supper tonight, but very thankful for this meal that we were blessed with by a friend of ours. So, all right, so I'm going to eat, and then I'll get back to the what I was talking about. All right, everyone, so we are done eating lunch, and it was a reminder of why we don't go there anymore. We are thankful that it was gifted to us, but we actually haven't gone to any Chinese restaurant in well over a year, maybe even 2. So that is the place we always went to go get our Chinese food. But then I started making my own homemade sweet and sour sauce, or the sweet and sour sauce, but just the whole sweet and sour meal, sweet and sour chicken meal. And ever since then, we actually never went back to that restaurant to get Chinese food, because I could just make it at home, and it was a lot better and much more cheaper. So the cost has definitely gone up. So yeah, we normally get the 2 large sweet and sour chicken because we actually plan for a second meal out of it, and 1 large broccoli beef. It's nowhere near as good as it used to be, and it was a quick reminder of why we stopped going there, besides I make it myself. So yeah, we're grateful that it was gifted to us, like I said, and we have plenty for probably 2 more meals out of it. We actually didn't eat too much of it. We were hungrier earlier, and then when we sat down and ate, but nonetheless, we ate lunch, and I just want to kind of wrap up this part of the video. I'm going to do pros and cons of being a homeowner in part 2, which will be out tonight because I already have my notes going, and I'm going to record that and post it tonight. All right, so I just want to wrap up this first part of things you want to look at and steps you want to take before you decide to become a homeowner, and things you need to do to become a homeowner. All right, so I ended when I pulled up into the driveway with knowing what's important to you in a home you're going to purchase. And as I said, for us, the garage size and the yard size, and we got both of that. The house didn't much matter. It was somewhere to sleep in. We didn't want a broken, a house we were going to have to do major repairs to. This is an old house. It's 1940 or 41 built, but it's in decent shape. Pure plaster on the walls, so we have no drywall whatsoever. But it's not falling apart. So Well, we did have repairs done, and that's going to come in part 2 in pros and cons of homeownership. So the last point is just make sure it's the house for you. It's exactly what you want. If it's two of you that are buying the house, or that are, going to be there, like husband and wife, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, make sure you both want it. Because if one wants it, the other doesn't, then you might face some problems down the road. So just make sure it's the house for everybody involved. All right? So I'm just going to kind of wrap up and summarize everything I went over. And if you can think of anything that I did not mention, drop it down in the comments so everybody can see it. Again, this is just what I went through and the things I had to do. All right, so number 1, your credit score, minimum of 620. And down payment, did I even go over down payment? No, I don't think I did. So for a conventional loan, they can ask from anywhere from 3 to 20% down payment on the house. So keep that in mind as to what you're going to be able to come up with for a down payment. Now, I'm a veteran. I used my VA to purchase this home, and I did not have to put any money down, not a penny. We actually even got a check back. What we did was we purchased our homeowner's insurance before the closing date, so we had it in place already. And then I did not have to put a penny down on this home. And we even negotiated, also negotiate. Don't just accept, price or stuff you want done to the house, as part of the closing. Negotiate. So the cost of the house again was $70,000. It was $69,999 or whatever, and it was us and one other person who wanted the house. We offered, this is how much we wanted it. We offered full price, $70,000. You can't go wrong for this lot. So we got it, but upon the home inspection by the inspector, the furnace was still from the 60s. So that needed to be replaced. So we actually negotiated that into the contract, is that the previous homeowner would replace the furnace. So we actually got a new furnace into buying this house. So always negotiate. Take a good look at the house. If you see something the inspector didn't, negotiate these things into your offerings. So, all right. So, credit score, down payment, 3 to 20%. Work stability. They want to know that you're making a stable income and that you're not going to be jumping from job to job. For veterans, inquire with your VA loan. You will not have to put a penny down. And determine, I kind of lost count there, determine how much of a mortgage payment you are going to be able to afford and go less. The other thing I didn't see, that's why I probably shouldn't have done it while I was driving, because I had my book of notes here. Escrow also. We escrow our property taxes and homeowners insurance. I advise escrowing, because then you won't have to make sure you save up for it to pay for it every year. And even in escrowing, I would suggest putting a little bit away each month in case you didn't pay enough into escrow. Escrow can go up if, like in our instance, we changed homeowner insurance companies, and it popped our escrow up, so we had to pay a little bit into our escrow amount. So So anyway, yeah, I would advise escrowing property tax and homeowners insurance, and that takes a lot off your shoulders as to having to save up for it. All right, so making sure again that you can be able to afford mortgage if you lose half of the income in your household. And I always say go lower, make sure you can afford it, so that way you are able to keep your house if somebody loses a job in the household. That's utmost important. We will never give this house up. This is our forever home. We will never give it up, because in scary times we are right now, we will not go through anything. This was a very stressful process for me. Anytime you go through any kind of loan process is very stressful for me. I don't know about you. Some people handle it better. I don't. I didn't, it made me tense. So I will not go through this again unless we win the lottery and buy property out in the middle of nowhere. But this is our forever home. We love it. We're blessed to get it. And so yeah. Yeah, so I think, and determine what's important in the house for you. Whether it's yard size, house size, if you have kids, a bigger family, you might need a certain amount of size in your home. It's just two of us and fur babies, so we didn't need a big home. Our home, actually, our house is just under 1,000 square feet, and that's plenty for us. We wanted a bigger yard than anything. And just make sure it's the home for you. Like, it's going to be your forever home. Don't count on, oh, we're going to buy another home 10 years down the road. Don't count on that. Just make sure it's the home you're going to love. So, all right. So I hope this was helpful to some of you that are looking to buy a house. And as I said, part 2 will come tonight, pros and cons of homeownership. And again, if I didn't mention something that you know of, drop it down in the comments so others can see it as well. But I'm just basing this off my experience. And if I forgot something, I'll mention it later on. So, all right, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my videos. I appreciate all of you and the support you give my channel. And with that, remember to live life, be good to yourself, and be good to others. Until next time.